Hey, what's going on, everyone? And I am here today for my first installment in what is going to be a multi-part series of my light novel breakdowns of Overlord: The Sacred Kingdom. If you saw my review of the Sacred Kingdom movie that I posted a few days ago, you would know that I have decided that I'm going to have to make this a multi-part series. Number one, the movie's just way too long to cover in one video, and number two, there's just a lot to say about what was not only omitted but also what was shown. There's extras there that I want to elaborate on as well. And so the way I've decided to break it up is based on the amount of light novel that's covered in certain sections of the movie. That's what I figured would be the most efficient way. I should also mention that Volume 13 is substantially longer than Volume 12, so Volume 13 will probably receive more content on it than Volume 12 will. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the breakdown, starting with the Volume 12 content, which is the start of the Robo Holy Kingdom arc. Okay, one more quick thing before I really start. I have this tick where I still call it the Robo Holy Kingdom, even though the translation is the Robo Sacred Kingdom. That's like the official translation. It is in the light novel too, but the first time I heard the name was Robo Holy Kingdom, so that's the one that's stuck in my mind. So if I call it that, just know that's what I'm referring to, what they translate as the Sacred Kingdom. Okay, so the first scene of the movie actually shows us a little bit of a map. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to show clips. I don't think I will be able to show clips of the movie, so you're just going to have to imagine what I'm saying. Sorry. And it's a narration of Albedo kind of explaining a little bit about the Robo Holy Kingdom, and that's pretty much exactly how Volume 12 starts. Multi-page description of the Robo Holy Kingdom, because we had never seen it, or there had been no story up to this point in the light novels. Really what we learn about it is its general layout, where it is, how it's a peninsula off to the southwest of the Re-Estize kingdom. According to what they describe it in the light novel, it's shaped like a sideways horseshoe. Because of that, it's divided by north and south, which is mentioned several times, not only in the light novel but in the movie as well. And then we get into that first scene on the Great Wall. And the Great Wall is that infrastructure that separates the border of the Robo Holy Kingdom from the neighboring Abelion Hills. And we open up on these two characters. The first character that we get described in the light novel is Orlando. He is that guy, that knight-looking guy in the armor that we see in the movie. And then we meet Pavel Baraha, which is Nea's father. I should say in the movie, this scene seems to take place like in the late afternoon, like the sun hasn't set yet, whereas in the light novel it's already the middle of the night, which is why Pavel is replacing Orlando, because Pavel is able to see better in the dark, with his ranger skills. In the light novel we get a lot more background information on Orlando and Pavel. Typical Overlord for you. It gives you so much information about a character and then just kills him. In the movie they don't really do any of that. They skip over most of the conversation that takes place between Pavel and Orlando. In light novel, through their conversation, we learn that Orlando and Pavel are both members of an organization called Nine Colors. And Nine Colors is regarded as the strongest group of warriors in the Robo Holy Kingdom, and they are given designations in the form of colors. Pavel's color is the black, I believe. I don't think Orlando's color is ever said. I might be wrong on that if anyone knows. And just as a fun fact, Remedios, who we definitely becomes a major character later on, she is also a member of Nine Colors, and she is the white. Pavel and Orlando have a big long talk in the light novel, and this is something that was shown in the movie, but it's definitely comes out more in the light novel, is that Pavel loves talking about his daughter Nea. He is a very doting father. Orlando is always if he thinks Pavel is upset or something, he just brings up Nea, and it just completely shifts Pavel's mood, and he's just immediately happy and starts talking about everything that Nea is doing and just rants and rants and rants. And another thing is that we see this in the movie. Pavel looks at this doll that was wrapped around, he wore it as a necklace. It was something that Nea had carved for him when she was 6 years old, and he just kept it the whole time. So once again, just showing that he is a completely doting father, and also that him and Nea have a good relationship. Another thing that's mentioned briefly is that they have learned that Gazev Stronov was killed by Ainz, and because of this, Orlando is thinking about going on a pilgrimage to the Sorcerer Kingdom, like fighting is basically Orlando's only thing. He's similar to Remedios in that way, and he's actually a lower rank in the army because he like refuses to take orders. He doesn't do well with authority figures, but because he's so strong, he still keeps his position as a member of Nine Colors. So really everything that happens once Demiurge shows up is about the same. So whenever Demiurge drops that meteor on the gate, which kills Pablo, it's from Pablo's point of view at this point in the light novel, and all he's doing is thinking about Nea and her future and how like, oh, she went down the path of a paladin because she wants to be like her mom, because Nea's mom was a paladin. Oh, but Nea's more like me, she's got better skills as a ranger, I want to teach her stuff, we should go camping again. It's a little more of a tragic scene in the light novel because we're getting all of Pablo's like inner thoughts, and the only thing he's thinking about is his family. But then Demiurge drops the meteor, and then we switch over to Demiurge's point of view, and this is where we get some more information on Demiurge. He just starts evaluating himself. We learn that the spell he used was a 10th tier spell called Meteor Fall. It's actually one of only 2 10th tier spells that Demiurge knows. Demiurge is kind of a jack of all trades build, which obviously isn't optimal. Anyone that plays RPGs could tell you that trying to spec into everything is not a optimal way to play the game. And so Demiurge doesn't have much magic skills, especially in the higher tiers. Most of Demiurge's strength comes from his skills. That's where his real power is. And also in terms of pure combat ability, he rates himself as like one of the weaker guardians. He even says that like about himself. But to Demiurge, fighting shouldn't even take place unless you're 100% positive you're going to win. So Demiurge basically views his intelligence as a weapon, which is true. Now that he's alive, his intelligence is very, very dangerous to anyone. So that is true, even if his pure combat abilities are lower than someone like Cocytus or Mare, who are specialists. So then in the movie, we immediately cut from the assault on the Great Wall to the battle in Kishna, I think is what it is. And this was a really weird transition in the movie because like we don't know how much time has passed, we don't know what's going on. It just immediately cuts to Kishna and Remedios riding a horse and cutting down demons. We don't know what the hell's going on really. But in the light novel, it's clearly explained that several days go by after the assault on the Great Wall, and then we're over in Kishna, which is their fortress city in the north. There's a whole scene that's omitted between Kellart, Calca, and Remedios. This whole scene is basically to introduce to the audience, these are the characters and these are why these people are important, as opposed to, you know, in the movie where these people just show up and we don't know shit about them. That's why I said that the early parts of the movie are super awkward. I was so happy I'd read the light novel because I was like, who are these people and why do I care if I haven't read the light novel? So as I said, we learned a lot about these 3 women in this scene together. We learned that they were childhood friends growing up. We also learned a little bit about the political situation in the Robo Holy Kingdom and kind of how it's a little delicate and weird. I also need to make a correction to my review. In my review, I complained that there was a mistranslation and that they always called Calca the Sacred Princess, and also that Demiurge called her the Holy King, which I thought was weird. So that's actually not wrong. I guess I forgot this. Basically, in the light novel, it's explained that they call her Holy Lady Calca or Holy Majesty Calca because the southern nobles were like refusing to like completely change the title for Calca because it was controversial for Calca to become the ruling monarch because she's a woman. So basically, she has received the title of Holy King, but as a woman, they don't have, like, they wanted to change the title a little bit for her, so they call her the Holy Lady or the Holy Majesty Calca. I guess another translation of that would be Sacred Princess. So Crunchyroll did that right. I was wrong. I have to take that back. It's a little minute detail. I just forgot it, but I'm man enough to admit my own mistakes here. The light novel gives a lot more context as to like how delicate the political situation is in the Robo Holy Kingdom. And actually a minor thing that has come up is that because all of them are unmarried and don't really like hang around men very much, the southern nobles have accused Calca of having some sort of relationship with these 2 sisters. Calca's been facing a lot of political turmoil, and then this war happens. So it's not a great situation for her. We have that whole scene in the light novel, and then someone comes in and is just like, hey, Yaldabaoth's here, and that's when everyone rides out and goes to battle, and that's the scene that's cut to in the movie. Overall, the fight in Kishna is somewhat accurate. It's a bit longer in In the light novel, there's like more exchanges and stuff. We get more info on Remedios and like how like her skills and powers, the strongest paladin in the kingdom, and you know, it just explains more of that. But overall, that scene's mostly the same. I will say the club scene in the movie, it's worse in the light novel. It's still pretty bad in the movie, but it's even worse in the light novel because like when when Wrath picks her up, and basically for the first time he shakes her, and it like causes her legs to bend in the wrong direction. Also, the movie, they like when Wrath is about to pick her up, they cut away to the scene with Nea in the fog and stuff, and then they show it later what happened with Kalka. The whole scene completes uninterrupted in the light novel. The scene ends in the light novel after another meteor is dropped on Kishna. We don't know how Remedios really survived that. We don't know. It's just everything just ends right there. And that's where the scene in Kishna ends. And in the movie, it immediately transitions to some indeterminate time later. And this is where we're introduced to Nea in the movie. And there's a group of paladins with Remedios, and they're on their way to the Sorcerer Kingdom, but they're in this fog. That is not what happens in the light novel. In the light novel, it then transitions to some indeterminate time later, but they're not in the Sorcerer Kingdom. They are in Re-Estize. And this is a whole section, and it's a large section of the book that was completely chopped out of the movie. So the reason they went to Re-Estize is pretty logical. Re-Estize is the closest kingdom to the Robo Holy Kingdom. It's the easiest to access, and they were asking them for military aid. This is where we're introduced to Nea, and she's been sent around to meet with certain nobles to ask for their help. However, it's not been very successful for them because all the nobles are still recovering from the disaster of the Kotz Plains in Volume 9. And it's something that Nea comments on as they're going around Re-Estize, is the general sense of gloom that they're feeling, that she feels from the people of Re-Estize. She's saying like even compared to the Sacred Kingdom, like the people in Re-Estize look miserable. Also, something that was moved around is that there's a couple of scenes in the movie that take place like after they've arrived at the Sorcerer Kingdom that in the light novel take place when they're Re-Estize. And those scenes are like the ones kind of showing the dynamic between Nea and Remedios. And Remedios is just constantly getting on Nea's ass. Things that Nea can't fix, Remedios is still pissed off that like Nea isn't just fixing the problem. Like Nea comes back from her meeting with Noble, and the Noble said like, yeah, we can't help you, and Remedios is just like, oh, are you sure you tried your hardest? Like, are you sure you're not just a bad negotiator or something? And like in this part of the story, she is just always on Nea's ass for everything. You see that dynamic even more in the light novel than you see it in the movie. Because of the rank difference though, Nea just has to sit there and take it, and you can, in this part of the story, Nea's internal dialogue is there, and you're hearing like her frustration with the situation. She notes that Remedios used to be like pretty generous and easygoing, but the stuff that happened with Kalka and Kellart going missing and stuff, basically what Nea explains is that the personality we see for the remainder of the movie and light novel, it wasn't always like that. Remedios wasn't always such an asshole. And actually, apparently, Maruyama modeled Remedios after one of his old bosses, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And then we move on to another scene in the light novel that was also completely removed from the movie. Once again, this is a large scene. This is like 30 pages scene here. It's where the Robo Holy Kingdom gang meets with Blue Roses. And the reason they want to meet with Blue Roses is because they know that Blue Roses has encountered Yaldabaoth before. This is back in season 2 of the anime, and so they want more information that they can provide. This scene is just them talking, Remedios and the Robo Holy gang asking questions and them answering it. I do recall one funny scene is basically that Evil Eye attempts to draw Yaldabaoth to confirm like, oh, is this the person you saw? And Nea looks at the drawing and she says it looks like a childish scribbling, and like no one can even like make out anything on it. And Tia takes it and just immediately tears it up and then draws a much better picture and is like, this is who we're actually looking for here. I just thought that was funny because it reminded me of Bleach and Rukia and Rukia's like childish drawings. I just thought it was funny. And another funny thing with Evil Eye is that during the conversation, she's like so monotone and almost seems like disinterested in what's going on. And then as soon as they ask about Momon, she immediately brightens up, and like Nea comments that like even though she can't see her face, she can tell that Evil Eye is blushing, and like her voice rises in pitch and she starts speaking faster like, oh yes, Sir Momon, the greatness. And they actually also ask Blue Roses if they can come and help out against the demi-human army and Yaldabaoth, but they say no. Gargaron and Tia are still weak from the resurrection, and also we can't fight fight Yaldabaoth, he's too strong. And this is where they basically pose to the Robo Holy Gang, oh, if you want to like talk to Momon, you're gonna have to talk to the king, the Sorcerer King Ainz-Ooal-Gown, because Momon serves him. One more thing, there's a little bit of New World lore that's dropped in this conversation that I thought was a little neat. Basically, Nea asks Evil Eye if it's possible that Yaldabaoth is a demon from history that's going under a different name. Evil Eye explains that that's impossible because for the New World, demons and angels, their names are inherently tied to how they can incarnate, I guess. Like, they can't incarnate unless their names have made, like, they describe it as a wedge in the world. Like, basically their existence is inherently tied to their names. However, Demiurge is a demon, but he's not from this world, so those rules don't apply to him. But I just thought that was a neat little tidbit of like them thinking in terms of their own lore and how these Nazarick people, they're all like basically aliens that are like defying the logic of their universe, which I think is very interesting. So then we move on to them traveling to the Sorcerer Kingdom, and there was another small scene before the fog sets in that was completely cut from the movie, and this scene is just explaining more of Nea's mood, and she also like thinks about her father a lot. It's more character building for our main New World person in this arc, and she thinks about her father and she almost cries, and how like frustrated she is with Remedios. Oh, Remedios is mad because her sister and her friend, the princess, are like missing and presumed dead, but Nea in her mind is like, so what? My parents are also probably dead, but that doesn't give me an excuse to like lash out at people just because, you know, I'm upset. And so it's explaining her mood a bit more and how frustrated she is at the current situation she's in. And so now, finally, after I'm done filling in the blanks for 10 minutes, we then have that scene with the ghost ship that passes through. I should say this was not explained in the light novel either. It's just the ship comes in, it passes through, and we're just, even light novel readers were sitting there like, what the fuck was that? I just found this out like last week, but as it turns out that Maruyama released a bonus volume, and it was kind of released as a promotion with like advanced screenings of the Robo Holy Kingdom movie, I guess. It explains why the ghost ship is there, apparently. I haven't read it. That's what I heard though, is that this like whole bonus volume revolves around the ghost ship, and it's only about 100 pages. It's like a small thing. It's not even really a full volume, but that was released like 2 months ago in Japan. So I don't know if it will come to the West, since the other bonus volume didn't come to the West, so maybe it won't, but we'll see. I don't really know much about the ghost ship stuff because that's not explained in the light novel either. So and then they approach the gates of the Sorcerer Kingdom. So something that's shown in the light novel is that frost giants are actually tending to those statues we see, and that's a reference to the events of volume 11 that weren't in the anime either. In the anime of season 4, they didn't talk about the frost giants at all, but the frost dragons that we see in the anime and in the volume 11 stuff were in conflict in the Azalezia Mountains with the frost giants. So this shows us that the frost giants have been brought under heel of the Sorcerer Kingdom, as well as Hedgenmal and the other frost dragons. So in the movie they get let right in, and then they get talked to by the, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, but that Naga creature. In the light novel it's a little more complicated. In the light novel they're basically directed by a guard to dismount, and they go into like this room that's like inside the gate. They're like, you have to receive a lecture first about like what the city, like what's going on in the city. This is where they explain like, look, tons of different races live in this city. You might see some undead walking around. Please do not attack the undead. If you draw your weapons in aggression, you will get killed. There's a scene actually where a Death Knight walks into the room, and every one of the Robo Holy Gang immediately like, you know, get ready to attack, and the guard is like, no, don't attack, I can't see it again. So apparently what's happened before is that someone attacked the Death Knight as soon as it showed up, and the Death Knight killed that person, and that like traumatized the guard, and the guard's like, I can't take it, don't let me see that again. So the Robo Holy Gang, they don't like this one bit. Because their whole doctrine preaches against the undead, but they're desperate, so they decide to go along with it. And this is where they meet the Naga creature as well. I can't pronounce their name, I'm not even going to try. And one little tidbit I thought was neat is that the Naga mentions that the Sorcerer Kingdom uses mind control magic to investigate crimes. So like if any of you guys commit crimes, like we will use mind control magic to find out. All the Robo Holy Kingdom people view this as like unethical. Dominate or charm arm. Like, they can make anyone do anything. Like, you can turn a normal person into a criminal immediately with a spell like that. So they're just it's viewed as just like unreliable, and like if you can just make anyone say anything. So like, why would you even trust that stuff to begin with? I thought that was a neat, like, kind of just like, here are the standards for this world that Ainz does not view as like standards for himself, which is, it's a nice cultural comparison there. And so another scene that is cut from the movie is the walk up to the meeting with Albedo. They show this a little bit in the movie, is like, you know, they're walking through and they see everyone's happy, no one really seems disgruntled, things seem safe, but like there's undead walking around, which is freaking them out. But like, you know, the citizens don't seem unhappy. As a matter of fact, they mention that the citizens of the Sorcerer Kingdom seem to be a lot more happy than the citizens of the Re-Estize Kingdom do. And there's a small scene where they come upon some dwarves that are doing maintenance on the road. The slums have been turned into an area for demi-humans to live, and they've even built like custom houses, or like have edited the houses to make them more comfortable for people that are on average smaller than humans to live in. And also the dwarves mentioned that a lot of the surrounding villages and also in the city itself use undead as a labor force, and this is something that the Robo Holy Gang immediately like lift up their eyes at. But the dwarves are like, no, it's great. Like undead don't need to eat or sleep, and they don't get tired. Like they're really good as a labor force. They explain like the economic impact of using undead labor is just letting them get done with everything faster, because the undead don't have to stop. They can just keep doing work like endlessly, and they understand language, they can take orders, and this is like something that the whole Robo Holy Gang takes a minute to wrap their head around. But it was an interesting thing explaining more of what is exactly going on in the Sorcerer Kingdom. And then we ride up to scheduling the meeting with Ainz. And I'm sure some of you must be thinking, you have been running your mouth this whole time and you've only gotten through the first 3 scenes of the movie? Like, what the hell, man? But believe it or not, guys, that is literally exactly the halfway point of volume 12. Yes, guys, they were able to get through half a fucking volume, about 130 pages worth of stuff, in about 15 minutes of movie time. It's actually insane, and that's why I was so critical of the first part of the movie, because this is the part of the movie where so much is chopped up, moved around, switched around, taken out. It is absolutely awkward and weird. You can like tell when something's unnatural, or like the transitions are unnatural, and so that's why I had to spend so much time talking about barely any content of the movie, is because so much was omitted from this first part of the movie. And I get it, because other than the battle in Kishna, like everything is just exposition and explaining and getting people on their way towards the area. So yeah, it's just easier to plop the guys in the place where they are already going to go, instead of taking the time of transitioning them. But you lose so much context of what's happening when that happens, and that's why like I thought this beginning part of the movie was so weird. So I know I haven't covered that much of the movie at this point, but yeah, that's literally half of volume 12. So I feel like I've covered enough for one video, because that's 130 pages of the light novel. And what's crazy is that there's still plenty of omissions in the second half of the book as well. So we'll see how that works when I make the video on the next part of volume 12. Alright, the video's become much longer than I intended to be. I apologize for that. There was just so much removed in this beginning part of the movie that there was so much to talk about. So I apologize if the video was a little long, but it was nice to be able to talk about this stuff finally, and, you know, explain why I thought the first 30 minutes of this movie were so awkward and weird. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this light novel breakdown of the first part of Overlord: The Sacred Kingdom. I will be making more in due course, so look forward to that as well. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please hit that like button on your way out. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.